One of the biggest challenges running a seafood restaurant in Texas is making sure that you're getting the freshest possible product. We're spending about $15,000 to $18,000 every single week. It's about 1,000 pounds of fish. My role as the executive chef, it's being able to recognize where I'm needed the most, making sure that the restaurant as a whole is working properly. To be able to get people excited about the unusual things about Mexican way of cooking fish. That's one of the funnest challenges. This is what I do, what I love to do every single day.
Hey guys, my name is Fermin Nunez. I get to be the chef of Este in Austin, Texas. Come join me to see what a little bit of a Friday looks like for us today. All right, so we got a very exciting day today. It's Friday, it's about 10 a.m. Usually that's when we get our big fish ordering for the weekend. We open for lunch in about an hour and a half. I'm gonna put on an apron, put on my shoes, check in with the team and see where I can be the most helpful today. My shoes that I go to war with every single day that I'm here. Now we're gonna check in on the prep list, see where the team is at. I'm gonna see what I can do before the fish comes in. So part of running a restaurant is being organized. This is one of the most important things in the kitchen to make sure that we have a successful service. At the end of every night, closing chef will go over this list, highlight anything that we need portion or prep for that day. We have one of these for every station in the kitchen. And then we have a master prep list that all the highlighted item gets transferred into this list. And just by looking at it right now, I see that Billy has a really hefty list of things to get done before he's out of here at 2 p.m. So I'm gonna check in with him to see what I can help him with so he have a smoother day. Buenos dias, Billy.
Buenos dias, chef.
You have a hefty list, huh? Can I take a little bit of something off your hands? Maybe the trout puya sauce?
Yeah, no, cool. Puya sounds good.
My role as an executive chef is to make sure that I can recognize where my attention is needed so I can keep steering the ship in the right direction.
The only thing that's missing is a couple of things that the line can do, and that's it.
Nice. Muchas gracias, chef.
Make it chip. Buen día.
Fish is just getting here, so we're gonna go to receive it. Fish is here, guys. Fish is here. The fish. Let's go get the fish, chef. Let's go get the fish. Unlike steak or other types of proteins that come in, fish is the best the moment it walks into this door. We're getting about 250 to 300 pounds of fish just for today, and we usually get that 2 to 3 times a week. It's fish day! Yay! Karina and Spencer and myself are gonna start putting all this fish away. We're gonna pull the speed racks from the walk-in. So we check all the fish. If we have any older fish, we pull that and make sure we use that first. FIFO, first in, first out. So this is our trout. One of the biggest things that you look for a fish is looking at the ice, make sure that they look clear, making sure that they look alive. When you press into it, making sure that you don't have fish that are just gonna sink in. You wanna have a nice little rise. Sometimes people think gills be a little bit sticky. That's a bad thing. It's not. It means that it's a very fresh fish. I smell. You want to make sure that it smells fresh. It smells of the sea. When you go to the beach, you smell the salty water that's happening, and that's a little bit of what we want to smell in here. This passes fresh fish food certification for Este. Usually we spend about 45 minutes to check the fish, to put all the fish away, to rotate everything properly. That's just a normal part of running a fish restaurant. I think the halibut, that's about the same size as Karina. Yeah, almost. So I'm checking the quality of this halibut. The firmness it's gonna feel a little bit soft than your usual fish, but that's not a bad thing because it's gonna bounce back a little bit faster than all the other fish. We only needed a half halibut, so I'll be able to flip it and truly look at the flesh. Make sure that it's really nice and bright and white. And it smells great. So now I'm gonna be able to mark the invoice and put it in the walk-in. The invoice for today is $5,498. When we opened this restaurant, I would look at the invoices and the amount of money that we were spending on fish. It was really scary that we were spending over $10,000 in one single delivery, and hopefully we would sell it, right? A week on fish, we spend about, I would say $15,000 to $18,000, depending on how busy we're gonna be. This fish will usually last about, 2.5 days, and then we get to start all over again on Monday. We're gonna check the oysters. One of the things that we're looking for on oysters is making sure that they are a nice size, that they're not open. If they're open, that means that they're bad. Making sure that they're cold is a big one. If you get warm oysters in any delivery, that's gonna be obviously a big no-no. This is a tag that is super important. This is gonna tell us the harvest date and where it came from. If we end up getting somebody sick, this is something that the food department has to have on hand. We have to keep this for 3 months. Want to make sure that A, we set a trouble and we don't get anybody sick. I'm gonna open one to make sure that it tastes nice and good. You always smell them first to make sure that they don't smell rotten. When we go to rinse them, we'll also be able to check them individually to make sure that none of those are open, to make sure that we don't get anybody sick. We finished putting away the fish order. It's 11 now. As you can see, the kitchen is super busy. Everybody's getting ready to serve lunch. Every day before service, we have a lineup to see how many reservations we have. We're gonna do a little bit of stretching right before lunch, and then we're gonna get after it.
We're gonna have 2 tasters of torta at 11 and 2 tasters of polvorón at 11. We'll make that one today.
Last weekend, we put a few new dishes on the menu. I feel like that was the easy part. Now is the real test, right? Doing it every week.
Let's stretch. We're gonna take a deep breath. We're gonna lift our arms all the way up to the ceiling. Melt into the floor. Down here, breathe in and push your knee out. I personally feel very thankful to be working with you guys. Let's, like always, make good food and let's have some fun. 1, 2, 3, lonche listo! Lonche listo!
So it's 11:15. I'm gonna get in there and start butchering some fish. We got the tile fish. We get this in from New Jersey. We're gonna start breaking it down so we can use it for a catch of the day, where we wrap it in banana leaf and then we cook it over the charcoal grill. And it's served with tortillas that we make in-house, one at a time, a little bit of black beans and pickled red onions, and a little bit of lime to make your own tacos. So one of the most important things for me when breaking it down is making sure that you're keeping it as cold as you can. For that, I have a hotel pan lined with ice and then another one on top. I only grab one instead of grabbing them all, so I'm constantly able to keep them cold as we go. I'm gonna start taking care of all these fins. Taking the top fins is gonna allow me to have more precision cuts. This is my George Chen scissors, Team George Chen. They're the perfect size to use them for. Breaking down this part of the fish. Now I'm gonna take the head off using my slicer knife. People always think it's all about the knife. It's more about knowledge of the anatomy of the fish. I was able to get through the joints and take this head off really nice. If I take this fish head to the bank and I tell them to deposit it in our bank account to make payroll, they're gonna be like, what, you're crazy. But if I take this fish head, put it inside of a flauta, charge money for that flauta, I can take that money and make payroll with that. So we take all the scraps of mostly all the white fish, steam it, we pick it, and then we mix it with a little bit of a chili paste, a little bit of quesillo, a little bit of potatoes, fill it in a tortilla, crema, tomatillo, salsa roja, a little bit of cotija, and you got yourself a winning dish. Super important that you always get to sell everything that you buy for a little bit more than what you paid for. Now I'm gonna start filleting this fish. Most people will try to be parallel to the fish. That, in my opinion, is what makes people kind of miss a lot of the meat that is close to the bone. I go a little bit perpendicular to the fish. Try to scrape the bones as much as you can. Remove the fish completely from the belly. And I prefer to do this part with scissors, just detaching the bones from the fish. That's the last cut. And that's a fillet. I'm gonna put this over ice to make sure that it stays nice and cold. So now I'm just gonna start doing the same process that I did on the other side. Butchering fish, you're constantly having to repeat the same process over and over again. I jump in the process as needed based on the fish delivery, how many hands we have that day. So it takes a whole village to be able to do what we do on a daily basis. I keep this little container with ice water to make sure the heat from my hands and this doesn't start to warm up the fish. Taking out all the pin bones. Sometimes people will look at this and start pulling up. That's gonna tear a lot of the fish. I like to pull it towards me and there's not gonna be a lot of meat. Now I'm gonna take the skin off of the fillet. The way I like to do this, I always kind of make a little indentation over here towards the tail and just slightly start to place my knife in between the skin and the fillet. Rather than moving my knife, I'm gonna start moving the skin and let that do the work. I'm gonna take the style fish, put it in the walk-in, put it away for the rest of our team. All right, so we got a halibut over here, similar to what I did with the tile fish. I'm gonna start breaking down to the primals. For lunch, we have a fried halibut torta, a little bit of avocado chorizo that we make in-house. This is a flatfish. This one has a top side where you have 2 fillets, and then a bottom side where you have the other 2 fillets. There's a line that if you get really close, you can see, so I'm just gonna try to follow that line. I'm using the hand that I'm not using my knife with, just like help me open This is one noise that you always want to hear. That's a good sign. That means that you're getting close to the bone. You're not puncturing the meat. When you have something like a whitefish, like a halibut, you're going to see a lot of different layers throughout the flesh, and it's something that you don't really get when you have a redfish. This is why we like doing it in the Milanese style, because it's something that you wouldn't necessarily expect, but when you have like a crunchy, nice fried texture, it's delicious. I'm gonna go in on the outside and detach the fillet. If you have any doubts on where to cut, you can always practice with your hand to get the feel. The halibut is free. The way our fishmongers work, they know exactly where the fish is coming from and when it's arriving from all over the world through airplanes. Sometimes our delivery doesn't show up at the right time because the airplane got delayed. So it's always really important that all this fish is transferred with ice. From just this one side, we'll be able to get maybe 8 to 10 orders, mimicking what we do on the other side. A sharp knife is super important in the kitchen because you cut yourself less. Goal number one in working in the kitchen is you walk in with 10 fingers, you walk out with 10 fingers. Right, chef? Si, chef. 10 fingers in, 10 fingers out. That's it. Clock in, clock out with 10 fingers.
Excuse me, chef. Oh. What do you think about this one?
Very nice, very nice.
No?
So this is a short rib torta that we're putting on the menu for this weekend. A big part of my job is making sure that I'm tasting things that Ale, the rest of the sous chef team, they get done, and then making sure that everything that goes out on the plate is approved. I think it's way better than yesterday. I think more herbs, a little less salt too. Super lemony, it's delicious. Okay, so now I'm gonna put this away, get the next fish. So this is a Marais cod. We are able to get this at a constant size to where we can sell it whole, we can sell it half. We butterfly it. We know exactly what we're gonna get every single time. It has a firm and fatty flesh, so it's really nice and easy to grill. We use this for the zarandeado, dish that is traditionally from Nayarit, which is a way of butterfrying fish. Fried red onions, raw red onions, a little bit of red chilies, oil, garlic, and then we brush it on the fish right before it hits the grill, kind of like back and forth, moving it. That's the zarandeado action. Instead of going in from the belly, like most people will do and take the guts out, we're gonna go from the top, split the head open. That way, when you butterfly it, you're protecting a little bit of that cheek meat that if you were to fly it the other way, it's gonna tend to overcook a lot faster. Tilt the knife with my left hand to where I can see a little bit of where the cross section is going to be. I can make the cut, following the bones, trying to scrape that. This is where the belly is gonna start. If I start cutting through it, the guts are gonna be there. So before I open that side, open it from this side. This is gonna start the butterflying process. I'm gonna go down the head to be able to split it. Once I find it, go all the way down. When you're getting to the tail, you wanna make sure that you don't cut straight down, because if we open it here, we're gonna have a big hole. Then we don't look like professionals, and we're professionals, because we're at Bon Appetit. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I had to say that at one point. I'm able to take this bone out. We can use for stock. The fish is butterflied. All the guts are removed from the fish. That's how we grill it. We break down about 40 or 50 of these a week. You'll see multiple people working at the same time in the kitchen because just one fish is one portion, and we sell a good amount of those. All right. Just knocked out 15 of these. That should get us ready for service tonight. It's around 1:30 p.m., so we're still looking good on time to be ready for service. So now we're gonna be making the Puya cream sauce that I'm taking off Billy's prep list. I'm gonna start adding my onions. One of our popular dishes, we take trout, lightly pounded so it's really thin. When we're cooking it, you only sear it on one side at a low temp, and then we have the sauce hot, pour it over the top so it kind of finish cooking the trout. We garnish it with a little bit of chili oil, a little bit of trout oil, some flowers from the garden. It's really exciting to have some of the ingredients that are in this dish be in our backyard, which is our garden right behind the restaurant. I've never worked in a place where you can literally step outside of the kitchen, harvest a little bit of peppers, a little bit of flowers, a little bit of garnish, and then be back inside the kitchen and use that. That's something really special. It's run by Ana Maria, our lead farmer, and a lot of help with volunteers. And even my mother, she goes in there every Wednesday and Saturday to help harvest. If we ever have any sort of leftover, we give it to the community around the neighborhood too. Now it's time to add the garlic. One of these things that we have to do with this recipe is constantly be stirring, because we're cooking at a high heat. I can smell that sweetness coming from the pan. Now is the perfect time to add the chiles. Mexican food is It's so unique in the way we use chiles. They're not too spicy, milder than a chile de árbol. They have a little bit of sweetness and they add a nice, really bright red color to the sauces that you add them. Now that the chilies are almost toasted, I can smell it and I can see how they're changing color. They're starting to be a little bit more of a deep red. I'm gonna go get the toasted sesame seeds. We make sure that they're super toasted, because that's when you can truly smell the sesame seeds and you get that nuttiness to the sauce. This sauce is very simple. It doesn't have a lot of ingredients, so we want to make sure that we take every ingredient to the max so they can be greater than the sum of its parts. I'm gonna add heavy cream from local producer. Cream in fish is not something that a lot of people will run for, but to me it tastes of us, which is Mexican in essence. Pair it with this chiles, and you're able to have a nice, really balanced cream sauce. It pairs really beautifully with the trout. That's something that I'm really excited to be doing here, showing people how you can eat fish in different ways. We're gonna turn this down to a medium heat. We're gonna let it reduce for about 30 minutes. In the meantime, I'm gonna check with the team, see how lunch is going and how we're looking for the rest of the evening. That we cook the masa every night and then we grind it every morning. Tasting texture, flavor, making sure that the dough is seasoned, because it's a canvas of what we get to do every day. This is a vehicle that we eat a lot of our food with. Wiping a plate, you can't have a taco without a tortilla. We had somebody call out for the morning because they were not feeling great. So right now, Gabe is training on his first shift on Hot Expo, which is a little bit more like the senior stations. How's it feeling?
Terrible.
Terrible. Why terrible?
Feels amazing.
That happens at every restaurant, you know? You gotta roll with the punches and make it happen, and then add the cameras, right? Bring the cameras, work a new station, it, we'll do it live. All right, this looks like it's reduced enough. I'm gonna take it over there, we're gonna start blending it, and we're gonna season it. When you're blending hot things, we don't fill the blender all the way up, because if we do that, the heat's gonna rise, as we know, and then it's gonna explode, and then it's gonna be a really messy kitchen to clean up. That has never happened in this kitchen. That's why we don't look to the ceiling. The kitchen came like that, right, Billy?
Yeah.
It actually gets thicker than what most people might think, and that's because of the sesame seeds. The sesame seeds are also acting like as a thickening agent. I'm gonna call for Joaquin, who's our chef de cuisine, and he's gonna help me scrape all the delicious bits into here. Teamwork makes the dream work, and the puya sauce work. You know, we paid for every single piece of sesame seed, so we wanna make sure we get the most out of every single one. Still needs a lot of salt. If you're seeing this at home, you're like, this guy's crazy, he's putting an insane amount of salt. This is a big amount of sauce, so it's gonna take a lot of salt. Also, a lot of fat, a lot of heavy cream in there. That's gonna soak up a lot of that flavor. That's the right amount of salt. That's exactly where we want it. Will you taste it, Spencer?
Yes, sir.
I get other people to try it mainly because maybe my palate gets like tired or overwhelmed. Palate fatigue.
I think it's there. I think it's there.
I'm gonna cool this down. I'm gonna label it with a date, the name of the sauce, my initials. If there's any issues with any sauce where something wasn't made properly, we can look at the initials and know where we went wrong. It's not to point fingers at anybody, it's just to hold everybody accountable and make sure we as chefs know where we need to direct our attention. It's now 3:30. We're gonna start transitioning to night people starting to come in and get ready for service.
Roll Tide!
Roll Tide, everybody, mini Roll Tide.
All right, guys, we have 202 on the books for tonight. So we had over 60 walk-ins yesterday. So let's be mindful that we are going to be very, very busy on this Friday. Station's ready to go? 1, 2, 3, sí, chef!
Sí, chef! All the lunch people are passing off the station to the night people. The menu is very similar. We're not closing between service, so we're still seeing a lot of food coming out of the kitchen, and all the morning people are checking in with the night people to make sure that they're gonna be successful and they carry on service until 10 p.m. My role in this moment is just kind of like be the bird in the sky and check in that everything is happening accordingly, because this is one of like the most crucial moments. Anything that we went through for lunch that we are now gonna need to make for dinner that we didn't account for this morning, this is where we can make the most mistakes if we're not careful and we're not putting attention. All right, it's 5 o'clock. My day at Este ends right now. I'm gonna go check in our sister restaurant, Suerte, see how they're doing for the evening. I hope this gave you an input into what it takes to run a Mariscos restaurant, Mexican seafood. Come to Austin, visit us soon. I look forward to cooking for you. Bye. You good? You good? You good? You good, chef?